First National Bank Tower. This is KLEKLP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council.
Good Friday morning, Jonesboro. This is meteorologist Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 FM weather. It'll be partly to mostly cloudy with showers and thunderstorms today and tonight. The high around 80, the low about 68, 69. Those showers and thunderstorms will stick around for Saturday, Saturday night, and Sunday. Won't be raining all the time this weekend, but a pretty good chance. And the temperature Saturday in the low 80s, and it'll be in the mid-80s Sunday. Jonesboro, that's your KLEK 102.5 FM weather.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. 3 people have died after a rescue boat overturned off western France in Storm Miguel. Boris Johnson has successfully blocked a bid to prosecute him over claims of misconduct during the EU referendum campaign. The 8th edition of the Women's World Cup kicks off in France on Friday, and India reportedly is planning to order taxi firms like Uber and Ola to convert 40% of their cars to electric by April 2026.
It's 9:01.
Community Conversations is brought to you by Arkansas Early Learning, offering no-cost childcare in Jonesboro and Northeast Arkansas. Applications at arearlylearning.org.
Arkansas Early Learning is a nonprofit organization.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM, good morning to you on your Friday. It's June 7th, 2019. This is Community Conversations. Kato Wonder is once again in the studio with you, filling in for Quabila, and we're still praying for Quabila to get well soon, to get back in the saddle, so hopefully we will have her back this coming Monday. But joining me today is Miss YoShara S. Barber, and she is the author of Her Silence Broken, Inspirations in Poetry, The Courage to Break the Cycle and Unlock Your Voice Within. So we're going to, for the next few minutes, just talk to Miss Barber and talk about her story and what led to the book. Then we'll get just a little bit into the book itself. This will be a 2-part show today, and in our second segment, we will have Moms Demand Action. So let's go ahead and bring in Miss Barber. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
All right, so actually before we get started, let's go ahead and get into our Facebook shout-outs. The Facebook is already lit up. Chelsea Chapman says, hey, friend.
Hey, Chelsea.
Shout out to Teresa Jones and Quabila. Even though she's not in the studio, she is watching, and she says, good morning.
Good morning, Quabila.
Alrighty, so let's talk a little bit about you for those who don't know you. Kind of introduce yourself and just tell the people who you are.
Okay, I am, of course, YoShara, and I have a background more so in mental health. I am a mother of 2. I really strive to just kind of inspire others to be more aware of the stigmas of mental illness. I enjoy writing. I enjoy just being an advocate for women and youth and children. And so my main goal and my main purpose is to kind of inspire others to kind of own themselves. And so.
Oh, absolutely. Got another Facebook shout out to Alexander, who says, morning, yo, and Kato. Hey, I kind of like that, yo and Kato. We need to do a show. Hey, we actually had a little lively conversation off the air, but the things we talked about, we couldn't do it on a radio show. All right, so YoShara, you talked about your work in the mental health field, and of course, it also ties into your book, The Courage to Break the Cycle and Unlock Your Voice Within. So how has your work in the mental health field, as well as your advocacy, helped to make you into the woman that you are today? Because like I was telling you off the air, every book has a story. Yes, there's the material that's within the pages itself, but before those words came to paper, right, there was actually events that happened that said, you know what, I need to put this down. I need to document that.
Right. Okay, so for me, let's just be honest, the biggest thing for me is that I got to a point in my life where I realized that I was broke and I was broken. And I had dealt with so many different things, whether it was childhood traumas, eventually leading to dealing with loneliness. I could feel as though I was in a room surrounded by hundreds of people, but
you still felt alone.
I still felt alone.
And I can understand that because
I was by myself.
I experienced the same thing as well. I've said on multiple times that, I suffer from depression. And and again, you talk about that stigma of depression. Sometimes people think that depressed people, they are less than. But no, you can accomplish great things.
You can.
Despite being depression. If you need proof, well, if you're listening or you're watching, you're seeing it right now. And again, that's not to just brag on myself because, I tell anyone, it's not easy. It's actually much, much harder.
It is hard. And just kind of owning that, just going through life every single day is like a constant struggle to, kind of surpass or kind of get past that. And it's not that you ever get past it because something always kind of triggers it. And for me, I dealt with so much, like I said, just childhood traumas, teenager, just trying to find myself. And that was the purpose when I wrote this book. I pretty much summed up everything that I kind of went through. And I had got to that point where I was so broken and I was so down that I was like, okay, I had to find God. I had to find, in order for me to find my voice, I had to find his voice. And that was in, owning myself, learning how to heal those broken parts of myself, learning how to trust myself, learning how to forgive myself. Just sometimes when you're dealing with different traumas, like you said, just dealing with loneliness, people automatically assume that the lonely person is the person that someone just probably left them. They just sit in the house all day by themselves, or the depressed person is they're just sitting in this house by themselves with the shades closed and all those different things.
And let me just interject, not to cut you off an example, because oftentimes, and people may not notice, some of my worst depression spells was actually in the DJ booth. Right. Now, I'm going to take you back to the pavilion just for a second. There were times when I was upstairs at the pavilion. There's 400 or 500 people down there. I mean, as the folks would say now, the party is lit. Everybody's jumping around, dancing, and, I'm in a groove. But, I'm just feel like mentally, I'm just like at the lowest point.
Right.
So that's just an example. We got some more Facebook shout-outs. Samantha Davis says, good morning, YoShara.
Good morning,
do your
Samantha.
thing, sis. Shout out to our very own SD. My friend Adrian Everett says, good morning, brother Leganzi Kale and YoShara S. Barber. Shout out to Denise Williams. Like I said, the Facebook is lit. Oh,
okay, Facebook.
Q has a question.
Okay,
once people in your family and social circle become aware of your truth, what was their reaction? Were they shocked? Were they happy that you finally owned up? Did some people actually know that you were suffering?
No. So they were kind of shocked. And I think the biggest thing is once you really kind of focus on healing those parts of you that are broken, sometimes it causes other people to not be so accepted to those things. And so for me, I remember kind of mentioning, my title, even more so to my mother. And I was saying, that this is what I'm going to write about. And this is what the title is going to be, Her Silence Broken, and she was like, why did you come up with that title? And I was like, because we've all just been broken. And I remember her saying, like, I ain't broken. I ain't been broken, just kind of like.
And I want to have a discussion on that as soon as you finish your statement.
Okay, just, and so I realized that she may not have owned or accepted that part of herself. And so, but for me, I was able to admit and be very transparent and saying, I was broken, but in all truth, I was honestly broken. I had got to the very end and it was like, either, I can't even, just to say it, just death, or either I'm going to have to figure out how to work through this.
Absolutely. And like I said, let's get into those stigmas because unfortunately the stigmas dealing with depression. So, I know a lot of people who are depressed, but, they just feel like they can't open up. They just hope that it go away. And they say, well, I don't want to talk about it. But my therapist actually said something that has stuck with me. And she said, you have to let your feelings out or they will find their own way out. And she gave the example of a balloon. You put air into the balloon, you keep blowing it and blowing it. If you don't open up the little end at the bottom, you know how you used to do it as a kid, it's going to eventually pop, you know, and it's going to pop at a moment in which you are least expecting it. And then a lot of people feel shame and guilt, because one thing that depression does to you, depression will sometimes make you do things that you are not proud of because you're just simply trying to ease the pain.
Right.
And then you kind of get into this cycle. So now you're already depressed. You've done something that you may not be proud of. So now you got shame and guilt, and it just perpetuates it on deeper. So what would you say to those people who are dealing with those stigmas and dealing with that guilt? I didn't go too heavy, did I?
No, you didn't.
I mean, I guess I can, because of my own battles, you know, I can. This is a topic I can really sink my teeth into.
No, yeah, and that's true. So, for me, oftentimes I saw myself as broken because of what I saw. You know what I'm saying? Broken because of the relationships I may have saw my mom in, or broken because of the way I've kind of saw my dad did with different women, broken because of, you know, verbal abuse or just dysfunctions and different things like that. So the biggest thing is you have to really own yourself. And for someone who's actually dealing with those depressions, you have to actually come to face to face with it, and really come face to face with that fear. And during that process of kind of coming face to face with that fear, you have to trust the process, trust that it's going to get better, take the first step. Without the first step, there is no process, and without that process, there is no progress. So, and until you kind of own, okay, this is what is happening, speak to someone. You know, it's very important to speak to someone.
I do want to interject on that.
Okay.
One problem that I've noticed that people run into is, because of the stigma with depression, sometimes when people open up to a person, they get shooed away. I always have an expression. I always lose at least 2 friends when I have a depression spell, because people will just cut you off.
They feel like it's like too much weight on them.
And a lot of like, I don't know what to say. Well, sometimes you don't need to say anything.
You don't need to say anything. That's
just
what I kind
listen.
of tell people when it comes to like a therapist, because people are like, I don't want to talk to, especially like in our community and our, you know, like, I don't need to go talk to a therapist. Well, a therapist is really kind of only there to kind of direct you. You know, you're kind of figuring it out yourself, but the therapist is kind of like pushing you and directing you to, you know, they're listening.
Absolutely.
But when you actually realize that you just needed someone to just listen, then you kind of really kind of take those extra steps to kind of figure it and work through it.
Absolutely. And of course, I can't stress this enough. You're not going through it alone.
You're not.
Somebody else is
actually going through it.
All right. Let me go ahead and get this question from Kubila, then we're going to go ahead and get into the book.
Okay.
Kubila says, can you share the titles of some pieces that helped you to break the chains and go forward in your truth?
Some titles throughout my book?
I'm guessing titles of other books, or maybe even other sources of inspiration.
Well, let's see. So for me, I enjoy, I didn't focus so much on reading books. I did read like Sarah Jake's Lost and Found, and that was a really good one for me. And I also, when I was kind of dealing with different things, I kind of focused more so on motivational messages. So I needed to constantly hear positivity and reassurance daily. That's what worked for me.
And again, I can't stress this enough. Positive thoughts. You know, people like, you know, especially when you're feeling down, you definitely want to hear good things. You want to know that people care, and you want to get those compliments. So let's go ahead and get into the book. The title of the book is Her Silence Broken: Inspirations in Poetry, the Courage to Break the Cycle and Unlock Your Voice Within. I'm going to just kind of read a little bit from the back. It says, this book provides detailed conflicts that many individuals have faced with little to no growth. This is the key to breaking the fears we have kept silent in an effort to reveal our hidden truths and accept who we really are in order to heal. Only we can take ownership in understanding the world we live in with an even greater purpose to accept ourselves and build lasting connections we can cultivate along the way. Then I go into the table of contents, and I'm just looking at some of these titles you got. Her abuse, her loneliness, her miscarriage, her defeats, her reawakening, her choices, why her sacrifice, and let's look a little further, her rejections, her fears, her healing, I choose me, and I'm not going to. You have to get the book to get the rest. But when I see these table of contents, I'm seeing common themes that anyone, and probably all of us at some point, have went through. So let's kind of get into some of the the specifics that inspire some of the stories in the book.
Okay. Well, let's just, if we were to just kind of go into it, when the specifics were that, like I stated, I needed to just kind of own everything that had happened in my life, where, from childhood up until just dealing with a bad breakup. And so for me, owning those things, when I wrote in this book, I wrote a poetry and then the inspiration that followed the poem kind of was the positivity of how to look at. So you may have looked at the poem and maybe thought it was kind of a darkness. Is, for example, her abuse. How do we deal with issues, or how do we handle when people find out something that we've kind of kept buried?
Exactly, dealing with, going back to that shame, because one thing, a person may do something that may seem bad, but again, there's a backstory. What drove that person to do it?
What triggered it? Because you kind of, like you say, you put it in the back of your head, and then you think it's something that has happened that has caused me to kind of get triggered.
Because life can throw things at you that can make even the most well-intentioned good person maybe do something that under normal circumstances they may not have done.
Right.
Kubila has a couple more questions.
Kubila is coming with the questions.
Well, I appreciate it.
I love it.
She's co-hosting from home.
It.
All right, she says, this topic can open up the discussion on a community-wide level. Many people who have never dealt with depression sincerely don't know how to be there. We need to be instructed on what is possibly needed. Q, I agree. I think YoShara and I, we just need to go an hour. Just me and her just talking about depression.
Just talking about these different stigmas.
So I'm gonna book you for that. You and I, we're just gonna talk an hour about depression.
Okay.
All right. She also says, while you were writing each piece, how many times did you start and stop because the emotions were so raw that you needed a mental and emotional break to fully process what was pouring out?
Ooh, Kabila, good question. I dealt with a lot of writer's block, but when it came to actually just stopping and realizing that I was kind of re-triggered in some areas, it was probably after each piece. And I didn't do like a big break when I was kind of, faced with that situation again. What I did was just kind of process it. I figured out a way to kind of process it and kind of cope with it. So that may have been me just, finding that extra positivity, or just having like a good friend in my corner. Like I said, communication is so important, and just knowing that you can talk about these things to actually somebody. So I really kind of had a good support system when it came to friendships that really were like, you got this, it's okay, this happened. And what I realized was that I just had a bad start, that I still was in control of kind of rewriting the ending of my story.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because no matter how down you get, and as long as you're still alive, you can still, write a happy ending to your story. You just have to have the determination to do so. So, looking at the book itself, who would you say is the intended audience for the book?
When I first started writing it, I wanted my intended audience to be women at first. However, once I really dug deep, it wasn't a woman. It was an individual who was simply surviving.
They could be man or woman or child.
Man, woman, child. I wanted anybody that had said, hey, I've dealt with abuse, and I've put it in the back of my head. I've dealt with loneliness, depression, anxiety, and I've just kind of just been going through these different things. But I needed a way to kind of find my self-love and my self-worth, and find myself, and, figure out how to break through all of these different stigmas, and just realize that even though I've dealt with it, I may walk around and just continuously be scared, but it doesn't hurt the same. And so I wanted it to be everybody.
Absolutely. Got another Facebook shout. Reverend Kirby Newsom says, would like for you to share in a church setting, break the stigma, face and fix. All right. So, So YoShara, get with Reverend Newsom. I'm sure y'all are Facebook friends.
Yeah.
So get with Reverend Newsom. And,
I will. Thank you.
And quickly, since he made the comment, you mentioned earlier about faith. How did faith play into writing this book and the things that you've been through?
Oh my gosh. Without faith, I probably would have broken, or I really don't know where I actually would have been. I came up with this I started a brand, which will launch in the fall, and that's just marketing reasons. It was supposed to happen sooner, but one of the pieces that that I have on these spiritual references in the shirts is everyday faith. Every day I was pushing myself to be better. Every day I was constantly, my faith was what kind of pushed me every single day when it came to God, listening to his voice, trusting his voice, trusting the plan, trusting what had happened in my life, and knowing that, because I have this strong faith, I know it's going to get better.
And I just want to quickly say this because we only got 2 minutes and we're going to get the information on where the book is available at. But one thing I did want to say, and I'm sure YoShara can agree with me, you can believe in God, you can be a Christian, you can have strong faith, and you can still get help.
You can.
It's not a thing where, because remember, God made the doctors as well. Right. God made the therapist as well. He created them just like he created you. So think of it this way. You can go to that therapist or get this medicine, and it could be something that God put on this earth to help you. So don't think that, of course, you definitely should pray, but don't be afraid to use other resources as well. Okay, so where is the book available at? Now, of course, with us being non-commercial, we can't mention the prices or tell people to buy it, but just tell them where it is available if a person is interested in more information.
Okay, if you're interested. So it's available on all major platforms. So it's available on Amazon. It's available on Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. It's available on hand if you're in Jonesboro.
Do you do autographed copies?
I do.
Okay, so there you go. So all available bookstores, you know them all: Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, and it's also available via the woman herself, YoShara S. Barber. YoShara, we definitely want to thank you. This has been a great interview. Like I said, it went by way too short. We got to do an hour.
Like it's over.
Yeah, I'm serious. I'm going to book you for an hour, and you and I, we're just going to talk depression for an hour. Any final shout outs as we get ready to go?
If I was to leave something with everybody, I would just say just kind of own yourself, own your story, and just, understand that your voice is important. So
absolutely. Well, YoShara, thank you so much for stopping by the studio. Don't go anywhere. We're going to get ready to go to a break. When we come back from the other side of the break, we will have Moms Demand Action. This is Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.